Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Westworld Season 4, Episode 4, Generation Loss. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Westworld, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Westworld up to Season 4, Episode 4. If you have not seen this episode yet, you will not want to watch this video. Otherwise, some things will be spoiled for you. I mean, seriously, things will be spoiled for you. So do not watch this video if you have not seen the episode. So, yeah. Alright, first of all, I want to start by saying that I had a couple comments since my video last week. One wasn't a comment, maybe it was actually from my sister, who pointed out a theory that was going around that, the character we meet at the end of episode 3, that Bernard, the woman who Bernard said was the savior of humanity, the one who could save humanity, was Caleb's daughter. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. Yes, that's probably true. So when I revealed this in this episode, I kind of already knew that because I heard the theory, and I didn't come up with it myself, but I heard the theory, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And another comment I got mentioned something when the showrunner said on Twitter or some other place or something, confirming that the Bernard storyline is taking place 23 years in the future. Now that for me that is a spoiler. And to be fair to the commenter, they did say spoiler, and I kept reading anyway, so it's my own damn fault. Yeah, so I kind of wish I didn't know that. So that's kind of information I had coming into this episode. I knew that that the Bernard stuff was 23 years in the future. Now, I had a lot of people say that all the Caleb stuff we've been saying this season was 23 years in the future as well, because it's just Hale making him relive the events. However, I don't know. The way I look at it is all the Caleb and Maeve storyline we've gotten up to this point, because we did get a lot of stuff outside of Caleb's perspective. That whole storyline was actually shown to us, the audience, how it took place 8 years after season 3. But I think there was a switch and at the end of this episode where we jumped from that time frame up to the time frame of the present day, shall we say 23 years later, where Hale is running these fidelity tests on Caleb, similar to what we saw with what's-his-face Delos back in season 2. So yeah, so I think what we've been watching this season was actually in the present day of that timeline, but I think in this episode they switched us up, crossed to a future where Hale is just making him relive these events, which I thought was pretty mind-blowing. So yes, I am just jumping straight into the big reveal that Hale had already won. Which I don't know if I heard specifically that theory, or I didn't come up with this theory myself, but for some reason I'm not too shocked by this. This just makes a lot of sense, in a very good way. It's not oh, this is predictable. No, in a good way. This actually fits and it makes it even better and more awesome. And we could tie the whole Christina storyline into this, saying that it's taking place. We don't know if it's exactly the same time frame in which we see Caleb and Hale at the end of this episode, but I hope so. I think that would make it better. But we do know that what we've been seeing in the Christina storyline is a distant future where humanity is being controlled completely by Hale, or at least we know that New York City, but we get the impression, particularly from the Bernard storyline, that it's pretty much all of humanity, especially the way that Hale is talking, that she's controlling humanity using those sound things, and so thus we get the tower. And apparently, no one can see the tower except for a few outliers, like that homeless dude, who is funny because he comes off as like an insane, crazy homeless dude who's just has mental issues and is shouting a bunch of conspiracy nonsense. But it turns out he's the only one who can actually see what's going on, which brings a bit of strong irony to that. And that there really is this giant invisible tower sitting outside in ways that are controlling people's minds. It's pretty fucked up. And so this brings a lot of revelations into the whole Christina storyline. So no, this isn't the Sublime, and it's pretty sure that it's not a park unless you call it a human park for hosts to enjoy. Maybe that's the case, which would be a really crazy reversal. But it is. Humanity has been set on loops created by Hale and for her in order to control humanity. And it's interesting. It makes me look back on the whole of entirety of Westworld's run, because Westworld has always been about control or free will versus determinism. Do people really have free will, and also who is in control? Because the first two seasons of Westworld is basically about humans controlling hosts, and how the hosts were just automatons just repeating the same things written to them by human beings. But it seems like season 3 and 4 had flipped the script, where it's also about how humanity is also being controlled by AI. In season 3, of course, it was Rehoboam, which was brought about from a desire for Sirach's desire to save humanity. So he thought in order to save humanity, he had to have utter control over it. And basically, as we found out at the end of season 3, it was really Rehoboam that was controlling Sirach. So it was really an AI, Rehoboam, who was controlling all of humanity, but that was with the intention of saving it. Which this season we get a similar but different motivation, where Hale is controlling humanity, but not with the intention of saving it, but with the intention of controlling it, so they did not a threat to her kind, and also kind of a sick like revenge reversal thing, since humanity was doing it to her kind before. Now she's doing it to them. And it does actually make me. It is interesting looking back on season 3, because it does make it seem like Caleb and Dolores's big triumph on defeating Rehoboam, which we do see completed with the flashback of Maeve and Caleb destroying the last remnants of Rehoboam and thus winning the war and freeing humanity. Actually, kind of in a roundabout way, brought about the downfall of humanity, because Hale would not have been able to control humanity so fully if Rehoboam was still around, because Rehoboam would have run programs and stuff to counter Hale and prevent her from doing this. Because it's interesting, because Hale is basically just Dolores. It's just a different version of Dolores. At the end of season 2, they were the same person, but then Dolores copied herself, and their paths diverged, and they ended up having different motivations and going in different ways. And that's another thing I love about season. God, I love season 3. But that's another thing I love about season 3, is because it showed how the same person can, through their experiences, can become totally different people. And how Hale, who was essentially just Dolores, ended up being completely different, where she wanted to control humanity, which is more closely mirrors the Wyatt side of Dolores that we saw in season 2, whereas Dolores actually wanted to save humanity and more resembled the sort of the softer side of her we saw in season 1. So that's very interesting. It's a very interesting character exploration. But as we saw, that Dolores died at the end of season 3, where Hale survived, so it became the dominant version. And so with Dolores, Hale, and not Dolores, Dolores, Maeve, and Caleb's quest to free humanity. They ended up enslaving it even worse than it already was, which is pretty interesting to think about. I do love that scene, the flashback we get with Maeve. So we finally get the information of what the deal with this lighthouse thing is. Is that Caleb didn't die like I had feared. Well, not here anyway, but I'll get to that anyway. He didn't die. It's just that Maeve had. That he was seriously injured, and Maeve, like, he thought he was gonna die, not knowing what it was like to be free. So Maeve started kind of like, through his implant, was giving him visions of what it felt like to become free, and then realized that watched him as he was recovering in hospital, and realized that he would be better off without her, and that he needed to go and live his own life and experience the same joy that she had of having a daughter. We also got the revelation that the way Hale found Caleb and Maeve was Maeve's fault, because she was reaching out to try to find out what happened to Caleb, and in doing so, Hale was able to discover where they were. So it was kind of her fault. Which, yeah, it's really powerful and really touching stuff. So yes, we do, and this is done so well. The way that, it was so confusing at first. The way Hale was talking to Cable and talking like in the past tense. Don't you remember? You died. You think that's your people showing up with your life, but it's actually my people, and they killed you. And we see actually scenes of Caleb being shot and killed, and it was like, what the end? But as soon as she throws out the word fidelity, I'm like, thinking back to season 2, I mean, that's, god damn it, what a powerful twist that was done. God, so goddamn well. And then they became even more creepy when Caleb broke out of the building, only to find that like all the human beings, and they are human beings, stopped and paused as Hale controlled them, much in the same way the hosts have. Now, I remember, because I talked about this before, I've seen clips of this in the trailers, and other people have, and that's why they surmise that this New York City that Christina in was a park, and because they saw all those people frozen and assumed that they were hosts, and so did I, but they're not actually hosts. They're human beings that are being controlled by the tower. That is so much more interesting to me, and it is like fascinating how the script was really flipped in this case. And so yeah, Caleb is dead, but now we have this different version of Caleb who could still be played by Aaron Paul, and who would still be an interesting character to see going forward. But yeah, that is absolutely amazing, fascinating stuff. So we get a little bit more with the Bernard stuff. We get confirmation. Especially, I like that bit of editing where Caleb says to Hale, like, "My daughter will never grow up in a world controlled by you," and they immediately cut to shot of C, as we call it, as she's her code name or whatever, making it very clear that this is Frankie. And I do like that bit of editing. That was really cool. And then, of course, they confirm where Bernard flat out says that you're looking for your father, Caleb, or whatever, but that he's not here. There's a body here, and there was a weapon. It's not like they were trying to hide this, but I think it was pretty obvious that the weapon they were talking about was Maeve, which, nothing wrong with that. That's actually cool that actually turned out to be the case. So Maeve, because I thought when Maeve sacrificed herself to kill the man in black, I was like, oh fuck, they're killing Maeve. Oh my god, I don't know how the show's gonna work without her. But then it's not without her, because at the end of the episode we revealed that in the future, which is going to be the present day now, Bernard is uncovering Maeve, which is going to be pretty awesome. Now, there's something I did not notice myself, but I saw a video that pointed out that the conversation Frankie, or C, was having with the leader guy. I can't remember his letter, but I remember everyone has like a different letter. But he said that there was an outlier that they need to go save. So this probably is Christina. That would be my guess. But then again, they could flip the script again and find out this is a totally different timeline than Christina timeline, which personally I think would be less interesting. I think it would be more interesting if this outlier was Christina. Now, outlier, of course, is a term used in season 3 to describe people who who were able to break free of Rehoboam's control, and so it would also be is probably being used in this instance to describe people who are able to break free of Hale's control. As we see, it is possible, as Caleb didn't kill Maeve as Hale was controlling him to do, and instead shot the man in black. And so it also goes to explain why Hale is so fascinated with Caleb and trying to recreate him and understand him, because she wants to understand more how he was able to break from her control. And I do like, and again, they explain at the end of the episode that she was able to control children more. Were more easily manipulated than adults, and that's why after a generation she was able to assert full control, because those children grew up to become adults and grew up under her control. Pretty wacky stuff, and that also explains why the homeless dude in the previous episodes was a bit older as well. So that actually goes to explain why he was able to actually see the tower. Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, so we find with Bernard that he's going to use Maeve as a weapon, because we did see Maeve was able to have some impact, some control over the weird devicey thingies. Like, she was able to explode it and glass exploding everywhere, which was pretty fucking awesome. So we do see that she would be a really great weapon. But moving over to the Christina storyline, again, we got a little bit in this episode, but yeah, there was a lot that's making me want to go back and watch her scenes again now that I kind of know what's going on a bit more. Actually, we still don't know why she looks like Dolores, and we still don't know what the deal with Teddy is. Now, again, if the showrunners are to be believed, Christina is a human, which what that doesn't make that don't make no sense to me, unless like Hale was able to sort of genetically engineer and recreate a human being to look like Dolores, maybe because Hale is Dolores in the sense. But why would she do this? Like, I don't know. And even if this Christina is a host, why would Hale recreate? I don't know. It doesn't. So the whole thing of why Christina looks like Dolores, and I really hope that they don't just gloss over as like, oh, I don't know what she looks like. No, that would be crap writing. But I have more hope, more faith in the show to not do that, and actually give us reasons why Christina looks like Dolores, and why Teddy. What's the deal with Teddy, and is this really Teddy? But that was actually a really creepy, cool scene with Christina talking to her roommate or friend or whoever that was. I'm not really sure the relation. But anyway, talking to her about, how her roommate or whatever was saying that she had this dream of these flies coming over, and she describes it like really creepy, and you can actually like look at it as especially given the revelations we get at the end of the episode, as a latent memory of when Hale first took over the world, and because as she said, she affected young people the most, and so what this happened when she was a little girl was completely taken under Hale's control. And again, I didn't come up with this myself. I watched some videos, but it also kind of explains the whole thing of the dude who was like, why are you writing, write my life differently, why are you making me kill myself, and all this stuff, that all the human beings are now on loops in the same way that the host would be on loops, where they're repeating the same actions, and we have different people recreating or redoing the same stories over and over again. So this story about the guy who was alcoholic, whatever, ends up killing himself, is just being played out again over and over again by different people, and apparently it's being written by Christina, which again, I don't know, make more sense to me if she was a host, but I don't really get if she's a human, why she looked like Dolores. Like, they definitely need to explain that doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so somehow, even though Christina's not aware of this, she is writing loops for human beings to play out. And maybe that's why her, in the previous episode, her boss is like, oh, don't write some stupid, boring shit. We want excitement. And again, maybe this would make more sense if this is kind of a park for hosts to go and enjoy, which is pretty fucking nuts if that is the case. But hey, it very well could be. But then, and the dinner scene with Teddy, of course, we get the replaying of the dropping something and picking it up and hand it to him. But then the way Teddy talks is about, oh, I feel like I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. It does feel like Teddy is aware of what's going on and trying to break Christina out of it. And so it makes me wonder if Teddy's involved in this resistance, if Christina is indeed this outlier that leader dude was talking about. And is this Teddy? Did Teddy come back from the Sublime in the same way Bernard did, because he has this connection to Dolores, who is now somehow Christina or something? I don't know. So there's still, this episode answered a lot of questions, but there's still a lot more, which is a great thing. It's a really good storytelling, as long as they resolve it well at the end of the season, which, fingers crossed, we're hoping that they do. So my rating for Generation Lost, out of 10, I'm gonna give this episode a 10, the best. I think this episode was absolutely amazing. I can't see any fault with it. Amazing revelations while still maintaining some mystery in a very fucking dark twist. Basically, like saying, oh no, like this whole time the villain had already won. He just didn't know it. Like that is crazy. And this is actually, I was saying, oh, this is 8 years in the future. Why are they doing it 8 years in the future? No, it's actually not. It's 23 years in the future. But then we get this, you could say like Mad Max style, but also someone else made a comparison to the Matrix, which I think may be a very apt comparison, how, the humanity is being controlled by artificial intelligence, and there's a resistance that try to break humans out. Like Christina's could be like stuck in the Matrix, and they try to break her out the same way they did Neo, just as long as she doesn't have superpowers and flies or whatever. But anyway, this episode blew me away. Absolutely amazing. So that's it for my review of Season 4, Episode 4 of Westworld. I shall be back next week and their week after to review what is turning out to be a pretty awesome season of Westworld. Maybe it will end up being just as good, if not better, in Season 3, but I don't know. If they manage to hit this landing, possibly. But we'll see. So, I also cover many other shows on my channel, like Star Wars Rebels, Better Call Saul, all things Star Trek, The Expanse, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.